Assalamu alaikum. Here with Brother Kamal, Brother Maruf and Wava Sassas here at the birthplace of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is actually turned into a library now, and it says that you can't do any acts of worship, but it's definitely a blessed place. When was the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam born? 1400 years ago, around approximately now. The Prophet ﷺ was born by consensus on the scholars on a Monday. That's a consensus that he was born on a Monday, Yawmul Ithnain, because there's a hadith in Sahih Muslim where the Prophet ﷺ was asked, why do you fast on a Monday? And he said, ذاك اليوم ولدت فيه, that was the day I was born. So there's a consensus he was born on Monday, but there's a difference of opinion on the day that he was born. So some scholars say he was born on the 8th of Rabiul Awwal, some say he was 9th of Rabiul Awwal. The most famous amongst the world is 12th of Rabiul Awwal, but I think according to scholars of hadith they say that the most authentic is the 8th of Rabiul Awwal. But it doesn't really matter what day he was born. So he was born in the house of his grandfather Abdul Muttalib, because that time his father had already passed away. So his mother Amina bint Wahab, she was already here, and at that time the local women used to be those who used to be the midwives. So one of the Sahaba, his name was Abdurrahman bin Auf, his mom Shifa bint Asad, she came to the house of the Prophet ﷺ when the night he was born. So as she was walking, you can imagine she was walking down here, she goes that she's never seen in her life the stars come so close, the stars coming so close, and she said that I was so scared I thought the stars were going to come and fall on me. The stars came to witness the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. Imagine it. So then she came and she went inside, of course, and the Prophet ﷺ was born. And Amina bint Wahab says, the mother of the Prophet ﷺ, that other women, when they go through pregnancy, they suffer some pain. I haven't suffered any pain in my pregnancy. The Prophet ﷺ was born, and it's from in the hadith of Anas ibn Malik as well, that when he was born, he said, from my karama is that I was born circumcised. I was born circumcised, and the umbilical cord, it was cut already of the Prophet ﷺ. Why was that? So no one had to see his private parts. He goes, that's from my sort of honor, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored me in such a way that no one had to see my private parts, because I was born circumcised and my umbilical cord was cut. Right, and obviously people say this is a weak hadith or whatever, but one of the scholars, Al-Hakim, says this has reached tawatur, which is a really strong hadith. So he was born, and Shifa bint al-Aswad, she says that when he was born, do you know how babies have a lot of dirt on them when they're born and impurity? She goes, when the Prophet ﷺ was born, he was like clean as a whistle. We didn't even need to bathe him because he came out pure, right? And as soon as he came out, he fell into prostration, and obviously they were a bit scared. Baby, she put the baby next to her, the mom Amina, and then the baby fell into prostration, and she obviously they were a bit scared, but the baby turned over, and it got up again, and it put one finger up to indicate the Tawheed. Put one finger up. This is a baby just been born right now, and all this miraculous things already happened. And Amina describes in the narrations that he put this one finger up, and from that one finger light came out which illuminated the entire room, and the veils between the room and the palaces of Basra and Kisra, they were illuminated. She could see the palaces of the distant lands. They were illuminated by this finger, by the light coming out of this finger. And later on they found out as well that at that time 14 pillars of the palace of Kisra, which was the Persian king, the king of the Persian Empire, the 14 pillars shook. The palace shook, and 14 pillars fell to the ground. And to understand the structure, how strong the structure of those palaces was later on, one of the Khalifas, I forgot his name. One of the Khalifas, he destroyed this palace after when Islam conquered that land, and he found it very difficult to sort of take the pillars down. But when the Prophet ﷺ was born, this palace shook and 14 pillars fell to the ground. There was a fire that was burning for 1,000 years, right? And the Zoroastrians, which is the people who used to worship fire, right? that fire became extinguished as soon as the Prophet ﷺ was born, right? 1,000 years. And the people were like, obviously it's quite strange why this thing actually happened. All these things were happening at the same time, and the people went to the king and they were like, oh, what's up? How come the fire has been extinguished? We worship the fire. How come the palace shook? There was no earthquake or anything. The palace just shook and the 14 pillars fell down. So he obviously consulted his ministers and stuff, and they didn't have a clue. And there was a man who was one of the most knowledgeable from amongst them, Nu'man. He said, okay, I know someone that will probably I'll be able to answer this question, but I have to go to Sham. So he went to Syria, Sham at the time, and there was this guy called Abdul Masih al-Ghassani. He went to him and asked him, what do you think this is? It's crazy, it's never happened before. Like, we don't know anything that's happened like this before, and why did these two things happen? And then he goes, I don't know, but I have an uncle who might know. So he went, Abdul Masih, he had an uncle called Satih. He went to this uncle, and when he went to him, he found him in a state of meditation. And some narrations said he was just on his deathbed, right? And he went to his uncle, and his uncle goes, before he asked him the question, he goes, Ji'ta tas'alu an khumudin nayran. You've come to ask me about why the fire became extinguished, what tijas al-aywan, and why the pillars of the palace, why they came to the ground. And he goes, you've also come to ask me about why sort of this river, there was a small river, it dried up at that particular time, right? So you come to ask me all these questions. And then he said, إذا كثرت التلاوة, when the tilawa increases, because when the Prophet ﷺ comes, he's going to recite the Quran upon the people. وَظَهَرَتْ صَاحِبُ الْحَرَارَةِ, and when the one of Harara comes. Harara is one who will conquest, and so someone who will sort of conquer the lands around him, right? And then he goes, فَلَيْسَ لِعَبْدِ الْمَسِيحِ شَامَ. At that time, Abdul Masih, who was the governor of Sham won't be his anymore, because Islam will come and overtook this. And after he said these sentences, it's the narration mentioned he passed away. So this is mentioned in one of the books called Dalail al-Nubuwah by Imam Bayhaqi. So this is one of the incidents that happened at the time. And it's also mentioned that a Jewish man at the time, he came to Makkah for some business purpose. But obviously, we know in the previous scriptures, there is mention of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's mention of him, mention of his attributes, mention of when he will come, and the incidents surrounding his birth. They're also sort of indicated in the Torah. So this man, he's obviously acquainted with the Torah. He knows what's inside the Torah. He comes from Makkah on a business trip, and he knows all these signs are here, because the stars coming down and this and that. Like, it's never really happened before. And obviously they're awaiting the Prophet, but they thought that the Prophet's going to come from the children of Israel. So obviously they knew the signs, and they were settling around these parts. But what happened is, this man, he went and asked around, is there any baby boy that was born today? Is there any baby boy that was born today? So every baby boy that was born, he went to them and asked them, okay, did this child have a father? Because he knew that the Prophet ﷺ child, he would be an orphan. His father would have passed away before he was born. So people said, nah, this guy has a father. He said, nah, it's not him then, not him then. And he ended up in the house of Abdul Muttalib, and someone said, yeah, Abdul Muttalib had a grandchild today. He went to visit the house. He went to the Prophet ﷺ on the night he was born. He turned the Prophet ﷺ over. He saw the mark of prophethood on the Prophet ﷺ's shoulder. The guy became unconscious. He woke up from consciousness again, and then he just screamed out, "Wailul li Bani Israel!" That the children of Bani Israel, now it's the destruction befalling them. لَقَدْ خَرَجَتِ النُّبُوَّةُ مِنْهَا, that the prophethood has gone out from them. Now there's no more prophethood in the children of Israel, right? And he said that for this child there will be a big shan, which is the big sort of status that he will have, and the whole world will sort of take this child and accept Islam because of him. And Amina also, she said that when the Prophet ﷺ was born, this Prophet ﷺ's mom, she said that she sort of was in this state where she heard a voice coming from the heavens. So she heard an unseen voice, and then the voice said, "Tufu bihi mashariq al-ardi wa magharibaha," that take this child and take him to the east and take him to the west. So circumambulate around him throughout the world, which means his message travel throughout the four corners of the world, right? And then it said, and manifest within him the appearance of Adam alayhi salam, right? The bravery of Nuh alayhi salam, right? The beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam, the voice of Danyal alayhi salam, the bravery of Musa alayhi salam, and he mentioned the qualities of all the different prophets. He said manifest within him the qualities of 124,000 prophets. So obviously the Prophet ﷺ, he was the best of all the prophets. He was Sayyidul Mursaleen, the best of all the prophets. He had the qualities of all the prophets, because all the prophets, they were known for one particular quality. For example, Ayyub alayhi salam, he was known for his patience, right? Ibrahim alayhi salam, like we spoke about today, was known for his what? His sacrifice. Yeah, he's the prophet of sacrifice. So different prophets are known for different things. But with the Prophet ﷺ was a manifestation of all those qualities. So all those qualities were manifested within the Prophet ﷺ. So this was the part of the earth where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the Prophet ﷺ, and the heavens and the earth were illuminated by the descent of the Prophet ﷺ in these lands. So of course it says here that obviously you shouldn't do any extra prayers or anything, but definitely it's a blessed place. Abdurrahman ibn Awf's mother, can you imagine her? She's walking, she's seeing the stars come down. She's never seen this before in Makkah. She's lived in Makkah all her life, but it's such an extent that the stars were about to fall upon her. That's what she thought. Prophet ﷺ was born at the time of Subh al-Sadiq, not far from this time. So this time of night, close to Fajr time, he was born at this time. And some of the scholars write he was born at 4:26 in the morning. So how do we know he was born at 4:26?
There's no way of knowing.
There's no way of knowing. What they did is Subh al-Sadiq, which is true dawn at the time. So what the later scholars did is they backdated what time could it have been. So they saw, based on the calculations and stuff, it was about around 4:26 in the morning. Prophet ﷺ was born. So they backdated it. So yeah, that's the incident surrounding the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. Like, it was a miraculous birth, and it was a birth that sort of had a lot of miracles accompanying it. Around the world, things happened that there were signs that the Prophet ﷺ had come to the earth, and he was the final Prophet of Allah. The heavens and the earth were waiting for the moment that he was to come to the earth and illuminate the entire place. So this was the birth of the Prophet ﷺ.